because you want them nice and stretched out because you're going to be in this position a lot when you're in labor because your legs are open. That's how the baby comes out. So you want to try and strengthen and lengthen these muscles as much as possible. It's also a perfect position if someone's sitting behind you to do a little neck massage, which I would definitely encourage as well. So that's called Taylor sitting, and I want you to try to sit in that position as much as possible. Is anyone going to Linda's yoga classes? Great. How is it going?
It's awesome.
Yeah, they are.
I recommend it for everybody. It's awesome.
I would agree. What time is she doing on these days?
She does it Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So
Okay.
I come straight from there, straight to here.
That's right. That's right. I remember that from last time.
And there's another one Sunday at
mornings.
10:30.
Great.
Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they do end up becoming a necessity.
Yes.
You've done. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Monica, you're going? Wonderful. Which ones are you going to? Both. Nice. I go. So Linda will do a lot of this sort of, get in this position and it just, anytime you can get your hips wide and open, that's not going to be the first time during labor that your legs are like that. Because granted, you're concentrating on other sensations in labor, but this is not one of them. Like that, oh, my legs are so tired from being open. That's not what you want to be thinking about. So the other thing I want you to practice a whole bunch between now and baby is that deep cleansing breath. And we're going to talk about it a lot more as time goes by, but it looks like this. It's a deep inhale through your nose. And then it's an exhale through your mouth. And I'm going to ask you to start and finish every contraction with a deep cleansing breath when you're in labor. So it makes sense to practice it a little bit now, okay? Although it will be kind of natural, but guys, you will be doing it too when she's in labor, okay? We need deep cleansing breath, let's do it. And then the last thing is Kegels. And Kegels are, now that I mention it, anyone who knows what they are probably doing them, but they strengthen the pelvic floor, and the stronger your pelvic floor muscles are, the more easily you will bounce back after labor and delivery, okay? So Kegels are just tightening that pelvic floor muscle and then releasing, okay? So that's the other thing I want you to do, because it'll aid in recovery if you do tear, okay? And it also makes things a little bit more buoyant down there too, to stretch out. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start talking about the overview, labor and delivery. This is just sort of the pre-stuff, getting our minds ready. So I'm right now on 5 of the outline, number 5, Roman numeral 5. So we're going to talk about contractions. First of all, contractions are just the tightening of the uterus. That's all they are. And is anyone having Braxton Hicks contractions right now? Does anyone know what Braxton Hicks contractions are? A little bit, okay. So what a Braxton Hicks contraction is it's a warm-up contraction that your uterus practices. It's pain-free, typically, and it's just a tightening of your uterus. Now that I'm telling you this, some of you might be noticing, but probably more if you're closer to your due date rather than further away, but they're really cool. So I would feel them a lot if I had just climbed a whole bunch of stairs, some physical exertion. But basically, all it feels like is your belly gets really, really, really hard. And it also feels like that baby in there is completely stretching out and taking up all the room. The baby is not, it's just a little contraction. So if you feel it and you're like, oh wow, all of a sudden my uterus is really, really hard and then it goes soft again, that is a Braxton Hicks contraction. And they can happen anytime, probably from 20 weeks on, okay? Not feeling any? Not yet?
I don't know, I haven't noticed. But
yeah, you might now.
Probably.
Yeah, and it's not unusual to not feel them either. But so the contractions are basically just a tightening of the uterus. So your uterus is a big muscle, and it pushes the baby down and out, and that's the whole point. And so when you're having contractions, either Braxton Hicks or otherwise, you will know that they're a contraction because it feels like your forehead. Okay, if you feel your belly right now, probably feels more like your chin. This is like how we tell if steak's done, right? Rare, medium, well. This is probably how your belly feels without one. This is how it feels when you're having a contraction, okay? So if you have an epidural and the nurses are wondering if you're having a contraction, they'll just feel your belly. And they can tell how hard it is by how strong, if you're having a contraction, by how hard your belly is. So that's how it feels on the outside. Now on the inside, when you're actually experiencing the pain of the surge or the contraction, it feels, the best way I can describe it, this is when I was in labor with my second son before I had the C-section, I was like, okay, I should remember this so I can tell people. The best way I could make the analogy is that it is like an ice cream headache or a cold headache. So it feels like a perfect combination, just what everyone wants, of acute, like kind of sharp pain and dull ache. Yes, jackpot, right? You get both of them. But here's the deal with that pain. The reason you get a cold headache is because there's some nerves on the top of your mouth that get cold and then they react to the nerves up here in your brain. And if you rub your tongue on top of your mouth to warm it up, the cold headache actually goes away. But, so there's a physiological reason why we get a cold headache. There's a physiological reason why the contractions are painful. It is productive pain. We're going to talk about that a lot. It's not like stubbing your toe or breaking your arm. That is unproductive, unnecessary pain. Contractions are a productive pain. And that is the biggest thing that we have to get over our hurdle as far as being not coming from a fear perspective, okay? This pain is what's supposed to happen. My body is doing just what it needs to do to deliver this baby and to open up. So that's the first way that it's like a cold headache. The second is that it goes away. So when you have a cold headache after eating ice cream or something like that, and it goes away, you don't have any residual pain, right? It's just sort of, it goes away and it's gone. Contractions are exactly the same way. As soon as they go away, there's no residual pain. And so it's very nice to know that this is gonna go away and in about 35 seconds, I'm gonna feel back to normal until the next one. But, so first of all, it's completely normal and your body is supposed to be doing this, and it goes away. So that's how it's like an ice cream headache. And it's still sort of a sharp, acute pain with a dull ache. You know, that's the way. And I'm pointing out here, I felt mine in my cervix. I did not feel it all over my belly. You might feel it differently. So, so that's how they feel on the inside. When you are for sure in labor, you will know this because your contractions will get closer together and stronger, okay? You want both of those things to happen. If they don't both happen, then you probably aren't in real labor. You are probably in some sort of pre-labor and your body's getting ready. But everyone asks me, how do I know when I'm in labor? How do I know when to go to the hospital? You want to look at this chart, or if you really want to be modern, you look on an app on your phone, because they have those. And this is just what I use to demonstrate those. It's called timing your contractions. It's towards the end. And basically, it just asks, time your contractions start, and how long did it last. So we're looking at both frequency and duration. So the frequency of contractions is the beginning of one contraction to the beginning of next, okay? So that's when you want to say they're 20 to 25 minutes apart. That's how you know that. That's the frequency. The duration is the beginning and to end of each contraction, all right? So the more important piece in early labor is the frequency. So when you know that you're in labor, you will, and your doctor says, well, how far apart are they? You'll know the beginning of one to the beginning of next. Doctor's less concerned about how long you're lasting, okay? They will get more concerned about that later, but they want to know how far apart they are. Now, if your frequency, and you time for an hour, and you have 2 contractions, great. If you time for the next hour, and you have 3 contractions, you know you're starting to go the right direction. If the next time you time, and you only have 1, put down the clock and just hang out. You know, I mean, and you don't have to sit there the whole entire time. It's annoying. So you just need to get a pattern. You need to know what the pattern is. If there is no pattern, you're probably not in real, active labor at that point, okay? So time enough to get a pattern and then let it go. And then when you think things are changing and all of a sudden you are having 3 or 4 an hour, then time again, get another idea. Okay? But don't be attached to the clock. I'll show you a video where the guy is attached to the clock.
Do you have some suggestions for apps?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. But if you find one, let me know. I just know they're out there because I've heard of people using them.
Okay.
I think all you want is just basic timing my contractions, that sort of thing. But that's a good question. If you get one, when you come back to talk to my next class, you shall. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit now about effacement and dilation. And anyone have gestational diabetes? No one knows that? Okay, good. We're not quite far enough along, but so I'm going to give you guys each a lifesaver, and I'm going to ask you to unwrap your lifesaver, and I'm going to ask you to suck on it while I'm speaking. Okay? Do not bite. If you're a biter, you're gonna have to dig deep and try not to bite it, okay? Now, everyone look at their little lifesaver and notice, give me an observation about the lifesaver. It's round, very good. What else is it?
Hole in the middle.
Hole in the middle, exactly. What size hole? How would we describe this hole?
Small.
Smallish, right? Yeah. And it's sort of a thick lifesaver right now, right? So when we suck on it, go ahead. You will notice, if you're a good sucker, that your lifesaver gets thinner, right? We all know this because we've sucked on lifesavers before. Your lifesaver gets thinner, and at the same time it gets thinner, what happens?
Hole gets bigger.
Hole gets bigger, exactly. You guys are passing childbirth 101, because this is exactly what happens to your cervix, okay? So the effacement is the thinning, okay? That's the part of your cervix. Your cervix is like a whole roll of lifesavers. And what's happening with effacement is it's getting thinner and thinner. And as it's getting thinner and thinner, you're dilating. But first-time moms, especially, don't typically do it at the same time. So cervix will get thinner first, and then you'll start to dilate. You do not dilate unless your cervix is thinning out, period. Okay, so when you're getting checked, sometimes they do some pelvic exams at 37 weeks, 39 weeks. They'll check you and they'll say, well, you're 50% effaced and 1 centimeter dilated. Perfect, that's good. They're never going to say you're 100 or you're 0% effaced and 2 centimeters dilated, because it just doesn't happen at the same time. It's just like our lifesaver. So when they're talking about your dilation, that you now can know what